Hello, this is Meghnad and you're watching Sansad Watch, where we tell you what the leaders you elected have been doing for you. There was some drama at the Davos World Economic Forum last week.
हम भारतीयों का टेम्परामेंट, हम भारतीयों का टैलेंट जिस
Okay, not that. There was too much time wasted on something completely insignificant. And no, it was not a teleprompter fumble, but I'm sure many of you had your fun and made your memes. The real drama was this.
हाँ चुनिंदा लोग फेंक सकते हैं
तो हम उसमें अलाउड है कि नहीं आप बताइए
प्लीज प्लीज
क्योंकि अगर आप ये अच्छा है
Arey no, that was 4 years ago and that wasn't drama, that was a farce. Can someone please put up the correct graphic? Please? Okay, thank you. That's the one. An NGO called Oxfam released a report titled Inequality Kills with some eye-popping data. Inequality kills. Yes, it's that bad. They timed the release of this report before the World Economic Forum in Davos on January 17th. After this came out, a bunch of millionaires came together and told their governments to tax them more, including Abigail Disney of the Walt Disney business family. They even made a video about it.
I should be taxed my fair share.
We shouldn't be wallowing in our riches while everybody else is suffering.
10 years ago, you gave me a tax cut I didn't want and I didn't need.
Fix the mistake you made.
Because it is the right thing to do.
Tax me.
Tax me.
Tax me.
Tax me.
Tax me.
Tax me because my country, our country, means more than my money.
यार इतना पैसा है तुम्हारे पास, could have at least produced a better video. What is this amateur cut copy paste garbage? This group of people like to call themselves patriotic millionaires. They have written a letter telling governments around the world about the importance of taxing the rich. But did you notice something? They are called patriotic millionaires, not billionaires with a B. 2 commas, not 3. If you want to know the difference between a million and a billion, 1 million seconds is equal to 11.5 days. 1 billion seconds is equal to 31.5 years. Almost 32 years. Yeah, so what was written in this Oxfam report that poked these millionaires into making this garib looking video? 3 main things. Number 1, the disparity between the rich and the poor has increased due to the pandemic unlike ever before. The fortunes of top 10 billionaires in the world has doubled in the past year, while 99% of the world's population has become poorer due to the pandemic. The total wealth owned by 3.1 billion of the poorest people of the world is less than these guys. If these 10 people got together their money and stacked it in $1 bills, it would reach halfway to the moon. Oi, Jeff Bezos, are you listening? Why did you build this ugly rocket to go into space? Just take all your cash, stack it, and put a long ladder beside it, okay? And you will have a space elevator. Moving on to number 2. The report tells us that inequality is literally killing people. I spoke to Amitabh Behar of Oxfam about this.
Let me just give you one data point. This is more from the global report because that's been our, the inequality kills comes from there. So, you know, that one data point, let me give you that Black people die 1.5 times more than the whites in Brazil of COVID. Okay, that's the inequality that we're looking at. If you look at the US, 3.4 million Blacks would have been alive today if they had the same life expectancy as the white population. So there are multiple ways of looking at how inequality is hitting us. There are people who are going into extreme poverty because of the system that we have created.
You can check out the full interview on our website, but only if you subscribe, so do it. In the past year, we have all seen people lose their lives due to lack of access to healthcare and vaccines. It became obvious that rich countries had more of these resources than they needed, while developing countries had way less than they needed. Vaccines could have actually saved many more lives if pharma barons were willing to share the formula with other countries. But they didn't. Instead, pharma companies saw a massive increase in their valuation and wealth while most of the world was dying due to COVID-19. There were other factors like access to cheap healthcare, medicines, and even food, all of which boils down to the lack of personal wealth. The report says that in 2021, inequality resulted in the death of one person for every 4 seconds. That's almost 79 lakh people in a year. One person, 4 seconds. Number 3. This report tells us how the current level of inequality has not happened by chance. Instead, it is a consequence of the pro-rich policies made by governments across the world. Countries have been trying to attract the elite rich to invest. So they give them tax breaks, corporate subsidies, and privatize public assets, which widens the wealth gap. Now, let's come to the inequality situation in India. Last year, when the unemployment rate reached a high of 8%, our economy produced a new crop of billionaires, 40 of them. In 2021, 98 of India's richest billionaires have the same amount of wealth as the 40% of our poorest population. That's about 55 crore people. Let that sink in. Wealth of 98 people is equal to the collective wealth of 55 crore people. Yeah. What's worse, while these billionaire families accumulated more wealth, 84% of people in our country got poorer. There is one person we need to single out who saw unprecedented levels of growth, Gautam Adani. His net worth grew 8 times in the span of 1 year, from $8.9 billion to $50.5 billion. By November last year, Adani clocked his personal wealth at $82 billion. 8 billion to 82 billion. Yeah. Meanwhile, the world's favorite tech bro, Elon Musk's wealth increased by around 1000% to the value of $270 billion during the pandemic. In November, he's the first human to ever cross the 300 billion mark. I can't even imagine those kinds of numbers. 300 billion, kitne zeros hote hain? Just as a comparison, in 2020, Adani's net worth was equal to the entire amount allocated to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So, while people were losing their health and family and welfare, this guy had enough net worth to fund the entire Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. His net worth right now is equal to the nominal GDP of Sri Lanka. So the growth of the super rich 1%ers like Adani has been quite rapid too. In 1980s, 1% of the top earners in the Indian economy owned just 6% of the total wealth. Today, they own 33%. So what has led to this? There are 3 main reasons. Number 1, abolishing the wealth tax. Back in 2015, the Modi government got rid of the wealth tax. Before that, if a person earned more than 30 lakh a year, they had to pay an additional tax of 1%. The reasoning given for removing wealth tax was that the collections were a mere 1000 crore and the government was spending a lot of money recovering this. Number 2, reducing the corporate tax. In 2019, when our economy started to see a bit of a slump and foreign investment reduced, the government decided to reduce the corporate tax from 30% to 22%. All of this to make investing in India more attractive. In 2019, the economic situation of our country was in a slump. The GDP had contracted by 4.5% and foreign investors were fleeing from the Indian capital markets. So the government reduced corporate tax and ended up losing out on 1.5 lakh crore in taxes. In 2021, due to the pandemic, the tax that the government was collecting also came down. So, in its infinite wisdom, the government was like, we are running out of money. So now who should we tax? Oh, I know. Let's tax all the people who use petrol and diesel, which means literally everyone. The centre earned nearly 8 lakh crore in 3 years by increasing excise on petrol and diesel. Almost half of it was collected during the pandemic. This led to a direct increase in prices of food grains, vegetables, and other essential commodities, which affected the poor more than the wealthy. So, in short, the government is taxing the poor while letting the wealth of our billionaires rise to unprecedented levels by reducing their tax. On top of this, our ultra rich are indulging in some good old tax avoidance. एक था यूपीए का पीपीपी which was very profitable for some privates, और एक है ये पीपीपी where gains for some privates has been immense. Oh, there is one last thing. You know what is the best way to reduce inequality for the government? It's to spend more on education, healthcare, and other basic needs so that the poorest of the poor don't have to live in abject poverty. Our government has been doing the opposite. In 2021, we spent 3.5% of our GDP on healthcare. Just to compare, Brazil spent 9.5% and Russia spent 5.3%. Low healthcare budget means bad public hospitals, forcing citizens to rely on private hospitals. And when a pandemic hits, all hell breaks loose. Depressing. So here's a fun fact. If 98 of the richest families pay a 4% wealth tax, India can take care of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare for more than 2 years. Or the midday meal program of the entire country for 17 years. Or Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan for 6 years. 4% ज़्यादा हो गया, चलो 1%. If we charge 1% tax, then billionaires can finance Ayushman Bharat scheme for 7 years. Once you start thinking about how the money collected from these super rich can be used on poorest of the poor who need it, then the possibilities are truly endless. The tragedy is that our government doesn't think so. Look, one of the main causes of people being pushed into poverty are medical emergencies. So you can imagine what the pandemic must have done to millions who lost their jobs. Just to put things in perspective, things were bad in the 80s, okay? While the rich had a lesser share of wealth, but way more people were living in abject poverty than today. However, the way inequalities are growing right now, it will make society more unjust, fragile, and prone to conflict. We are seeing this happen all across the world, and we should be bloody worried. It's time for Know Your Neta. Today we are taking a look at Bhartruhari Mehtab. He's the MP from Cuttack constituency in Odisha. He is also the leader of the Biju Janata Dal party in the Lok Sabha and is currently serving his 6th term. Bhartruhari Mehtab is the son of Hare Krishna Mehtab, the first Chief Minister of Odisha, who also played an important role in the Indian independence movement. He was first elected in 1998 and has been re-elected ever since till the current Lok Sabha. Over his 23 years as an MP, Mehtab has been a part of 50 parliamentary committees. Yeah, we counted. Seriously, the list is too long. Mehtab is also an editor and columnist of an Odia daily, The Prajatantra, and has authored 5 books. Coming to his parliamentary performance, Mehtab has an attendance of 92%, has asked 185 questions to the government and participated in 121 debates. Mind you, that's 4 times the national average of 30. For his committed performance, Mehtab has received the Sansad Ratna Award in 2017, 18, 19 and 20. He was also confirmed the Outstanding Parliamentarian Award by the President in 2017. Now, let's talk about some controversies. Bhartruhari Mehtab, his son and wife were booked for alleged dowry harassment in August last year. The complainant had claimed that her family gave 1.5 crore rupees to the Mehtab family when she got married in 2016, but they kept demanding more money. She also alleged that the Mehtabs tortured her and threw her out of their home in Cuttack. The woman took this to court in 2018. The court directed her in-laws to let her stay at their home in Delhi, but when the complainant went to stay there, she was not let in. Mehtab and his family have also been charged under the IPC for this. Apart from this, there is another minor controversy that Mehtab was involved in. During Durga Puja last year, the government of Odisha had said that the height of Durga idols that will be used during the puja should not be more than 4 feet to prevent the spread of COVID-19 apparently. Don't look at me, that was their logic. Mehtab decided to cross party lines and said that this made no sense whatsoever. He said that spread of COVID cannot be checked by reducing the height of idols by 2.5 feet, and the smaller sized idols would actually cause an obstruction in the puja. The matter really escalated and ended up in the Odisha High Court. The court dismissed the plea, stating that it wasn't convinced about how a reduction in the height of idols to 4 feet would in any way reduce the fervor and sanctity of the festival. Fast forward to today, the third wave is here and the Durga Puja idols are still 4 feet tall and our administration is still as pedantic as they were. If you want to argue with Bhartrihari Mehtab about the size of idols or constituency problems, here are his details. That's all I have for you in this week's Sansad Watch. Remember, if you want to make Parliament great again, you need to watch it first.